Okay. Hello. Good to see you all. I'm Robert Buxton, and I'm going to play some piano for you. I always start by doing something improvised. I just like to do that. So, well, thanks. I don't know if you would enjoy it though. If I played it all. I wasn't even sure what I would do because it is improvisation. So, how about you give me some random notes?
Middle C.
Okay, that was quick.
E. F sharp.
One or two more. I like it already.
B.
Okay. Well, the words. I'm gonna play now. So in the past, I played you the Schubert Ave Maria many times. So tonight, I'm gonna go straight to another Ave Maria by Bach-Gounod. And so my story about this is that my wife is a pianist too, and she was recently asked to play Ave Maria at a wedding. Well, she said to them, "Which one?" And they said, "Look, don't get smart with us. We want Ave Maria. There's more than one." So in the 1850s, Charles Gounod was hanging out with his father-in-law, and they were looking at Bach. Now just think about that for a second. Maybe the world would be a better place if everyone looked at Bach with their in-laws. But, yeah, I believe that it's, oh, this is not a good angle, actually. But I just love that story. So they were looking at the C major prelude from the Well-Tempered Clavier by Bach, which goes like this. Pretty familiar. Well, speaking of improvising, Gounod improvised a melody on top of that, like this. So maybe you've heard that before. That the father-in-law wrote it down, and Gounod published it as a violin piece, then later added words, Ave Maria, in Latin. And this became the Bach-Gounod Ave Maria. So look, I don't play violin or sing, so this is a piano version by Georges Bizet, the guy who wrote Carmen. So here is, it's a four-person creation. Bach, Gounod, father-in-law, and Bizet. So. Well, I don't sing, so sorry. I wish one day, well, no, I actually do my civic duty and I don't sing. So I want to play now another vocal piece, oddly enough, arranged for piano by Liszt. So this is Liszt's arrangement of Robert Schumann Widmung. The text is by Friedrich Ruckert, which, yeah, that's very, when I went to Germany, they said my pronunciation was great, but everything else was lousy. My German. So I have that going for me at least. So this piece, Schumann wrote it as a wedding present for Clara, for his fiancée. And their getting to be married was a tough path for them because Clara's father, by the way, Clara herself was a great musician and a child prodigy and everything, but her father, Friedrich, was Robert Schumann's piano teacher. And he did not want Clara, his daughter, to marry Robert Schumann. First of all, Schumann damaged his hands, so that didn't help him as a piano student, to say the least. He used a contraption to strengthen his fingers, and it ruined the muscles. But I think, the fundamental thing with Schumann was, well, he had bipolar disorder, which they didn't really understand in the 19th century. I'm not saying that we fully understand it now, but we do maybe more than back then. So in Schumann's life and music, there's no middle ground, I would say. You can't play Schumann like this piece. I don't believe you can play it like this. That's not Schumann. Schumann is. Like my big musical idol, Ivry Gitlis, violinist, he said, Schumann did not write music for reliable musicians, quote, unquote. That's just not who he was. And, he felt everything to an extreme level. And a lot of people who have bipolar, they're very gifted, they're very sensitive, brilliant, and also suffer from it. And it's a really sad thing. Now, the internet is a weird place, can be. And so sometimes I post videos of myself playing the piano. If you like YouTube and Facebook, I'm just putting that out there. But you know what they say when you post something, don't read the comments. Well, so I read the comments and on this piece, and one person wrote too fast. Another person wrote, not too fast, but timing is weird and all over the place. Bad. All right. But I thought about that. I was upset about it for a little bit. Then I thought, well, let me think about this. The reason I play it with that kind of timing, because they're not completely wrong what they said. I do play it sort of fast and sort of unstable, because I think that's what Schumann was. I mean, I think his music is life. He was not a grounded, his music is not. And once I made the mistake of playing Schumann for my teacher in a very calm manner. I think I told you, and he said, my Russian teacher, he said, you know, it's pretty, but it sounds like you're just drinking a cup of coffee, reading the newspaper, wearing your slippers. That's not Schumann, you know? Schumann is on fire. And so this piece is kind of manic, and it depicts the feeling of being in love, because it is a love song. It's like what smoke gets in your eyes or something. And it's got, you know, if you're in love and you're talking to the person that you love, you know, you have adrenaline going, you feel butterflies in your stomach, and that's all in this piece. I can sense it. You'll hear it. So here's the Widmung by Robert Schumann, arranged by Liszt for solo piano. So I'm very intrigued by Liszt's arrangements, and others too, but Liszt in particular, he was such a master of arrangement, and that it's sort of a counter argument to the idea that the piano is a percussive instrument. That what Liszt did, there's a story that Liszt, actually he sort of invented the modern piano recital in a concert hall. In the old days, they never did piano recitals in concert halls. I sort of like that this is not a concert hall, by the way. It's more familiar, but this was how concerts looked before Liszt. All concerts looked. Now, in some point in the 1830s or 40s, I don't know, I guess the Paris Orchestra or whatever played Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique on the stage of the Paris Opera, giant theater. And you know that symphony has a humongous orchestra, and it's an amazing piece. Well, Liszt did his own solo piano arrangement of that. Yeah, one of these days, you know. There's just so many other things that I'm telling you. So, it's also really long. But so then, you know, things were more casual in the 19th century. Liszt was in the audience, and some people saw him and they said, "Hey, why don't you play your arrangement of that piece?" And the story is that they rolled out a piano onto the stage of the Paris Opera, which was never done before. And Liszt plays his entire arrangement of that piece. And people who were there described that it was even more thunderous from one piano than from that whole orchestra. And so I'm now going to play a piece that's very terrifying, both to play because it's new for me, and also it's just a terrifying subject. This is something Liszt played at a lot of his early concerts, and it's his arrangement of Franz Schubert's Erlkönig. So I'm not going exactly in historical, I usually go in historical order, but this is now like 1816, 17 when this was written. And we were just in the 1830s, 40s, 40 in that last one. So anyway, we're not right on the timeline, sorry. The Erlkönig is a piece for piano and voice by Schubert. He was very young when he wrote it. He's probably a teenager when he wrote it. And the text is a poem by Goethe. There are 4 characters and actually the singer has to sing as the 4 characters. Not at the same time, obviously, but they have to change their voice a little bit to depict each character. So there's a narrator who tells us what's going on. There's a father, a son who's a young boy who's ill, and then there's the Erlkönig is this kind of supernatural, it's like a ghost basically, that lives in the forest. And the father and son are in a horse carriage racing through the forest in the middle of the night in a thunderstorm to get to a doctor because the boy is very sick. And from the beginning, you're going to hear the sound of horse hooves and the wind and the rain. The piece depicts that so brilliantly. So. That, and that's what's hard about it. You need to drink a lot of coffee to keep that thing going. So the whole piece is a dialogue. I mean, I'm not singing it, but Liszt is, making it for the solo piano. But you're going to hear like these different characters. The father talking, saying, and then the son keeps telling the dad, I hear this ghost talking to me, and he's telling me to come to him. The Erlkönig, of course, represents death. So you're going to hear the son. I shouldn't do that. It's a higher pitch. I didn't demonstrate that very well, but you'll be able to tell. And then the Erlkönig, the ghost, is the only calm, it's weirdly calm, and it's the piece, actually the music kind of even slows down a little bit when the Erlkönig sings, and it's like, so when you hear something like that, that's the Erlkönig. Now, at the end of the piece, that whole wild, you know, manic energy, it stops. And the music kind of stops. You hear. And the narrator tells us the boy died, you know. So this is, you know, you can think about this piece on many levels. One is even a medical history, that infant mortality in those days was very high. And unfortunately, Schubert was very ill himself and died at 31. And this idea of some supernatural figure beckoning you to come to him, Schubert could relate to that, obviously, in his life, because he lived it. Another thing is that the stormy forest at night and everything, this is a horror. It's like a horror movie. And that genre in the early 19th century, it was so popular. That's when Frankenstein was written, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow was written. This was all the rage in that time. So this is, right in that style. So I'm going to do my best because it's pretty new for me, and it hasn't settled in me yet, the piece. It's a rough draft still, is what I'm saying. But I always want to bring you new stuff. We meet every month, and I don't want to make you bored, so gotta work hard, Okay, here it is. these I need to get a little more used to, but it's a terrifying piece. I told you, and even I told you the story behind it, and hearing it, it's a shocking piece even in music history, because this was what 1815, 1816. Not so long before that was the world of Mozart and Haydn and and then you have that. Boy, it's like heavy metal or something. So really, I mean it. So now I'm going to play you something that's very different. This is a piece by a 20th century Mexican composer, Manuel Ponce. Does that name ring a bell for you? He's not as well known as he should be. His guitar music is played a lot. Piano music, not so much. So this is, again, Intermezzo number 1 by Ponce. The story with Ponce is very similar to what happened with a lot of other Latin American composers and US American composers. So he went to study, of course, in Europe, in Berlin. Tried to become like a European composer. But then when he came back to Mexico, he realized he wanted to incorporate Mexican folk music into his composition. So the intervals, music theory, remember intervals? That's a third, I'm playing thirds. That's a feature in a lot of Mexican folk music, and this piece is built on all thirds, pretty much. This flavor of Mexican folk music. Now, maybe I've told you about one of my major teachers, Solomon Mikovsky, was originally from Cuba, and he assigned us a lot of Cuban composers, a lot of Latin American composers, and I thought I'd tell you about him because this piece reminds me of him. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. I do a pretty good impersonation of him. And he didn't think it sounded like him, but he was wrong about that. I think that's the only thing that he was ever wrong about, was that. And it was so accurate, I would call fellow students. There's a way you can mute your phone number. I can tell, well, better, I don't do those things anymore, but I would mute my phone number and call other students in his voice and telling them things. Of course, I would tell them it was a prank after a couple of days. No, I'm kidding. But the way he talked, I even found it very musical. He always talked sort of in the back of his throat. Hello, Robert. And he talked like he was always so tired. I'm so overwhelmed. Like that. And he would, I remember I was playing a piece by a Cuban composer, and every lesson he would tell me, you can't understand it. You're not even from Cuba. You don't speak Spanish, it's no good. And so finally, one day I just said, I worked so hard, I listened to recordings of Cuban folk singers, and I came to the lesson, played the piece, and he was silent after it. And I thought, that's it. I got it. And then he just muttered to me quietly, he said, I don't even know why you even bother. No, and the story goes on because he then got all the students that he taught, a lot. He taught like 30 students at once, and he assigned everyone a different short piece by a Cuban composer. He had us all come into a big room, kind of like this, sit, all the students, one by one, get up and play, and one by one he would just tell, you played terrible. So bad. And we even had a Cuban exchange student who got up to play, and he said, it's a little bit better, but it's still bad. So it brings a smile to my face. I know that sounds really harsh, but he was very funny, and I think he would do it in a tongue-in-cheek way. But this piece reminds me of him. It's a very melancholy, beautiful piece. The Manuel Ponce Intermezzo number 1 now. you. So, you know Buc-ee's and Mebane? They're building that giant. This doesn't sound like a compliment, but they call it the Walmart of gas stations. So I live in Mebane, and they're building this thing, and they keep saying, "Oh, it's going to be ready on so-and-so date," and then it's not, and they keep pushing back. Well, that's how this next piece has been going for me. I call this my Buc-ee's piece. I'm going to play you Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. I played you about 1/3 of it. And now I'm going to play you about 2/3 of it. That's how far I've gotten since we last met. It's slow going, and because I'm making my own arrangement. It's for piano and orchestra. And as you can see, I can't really bring an orchestra with me. It's not really practical. So making my own solo piano condensed version where I smush all the parts into one. I'm starting to regret doing it, but it's too late to stop. So, Now, this piece he wrote in 1935, and Rachmaninoff, his life is kind of in two parts. One is 19th century Tsarist Russia. And in that time, his music was very melodic, very influenced by his mentor, Tchaikovsky. And then 1917, you had the Russian Revolution. He left with his family, never returned. And he was so deeply homesick, mostly living in the US. He didn't write music for a while, just couldn't. And then in the 30s, his creativity came back, but he changed, his style changed so much. Although you have hints of the old style, you're gonna hear it in this too. But Rachmaninoff probably had clinical depression, actually. It's kind of like Schumann with bipolar. There were different periods in his life where he was sort of even crippled by depression. And one of those periods was when he left Russia. Now, he loved the US, he loved being here, but he was so homesick. One of his houses that he ended up living in, and he lived in Beverly Hills in his last years. I don't know why, there's nothing wrong with it, but and he had it designed as an exact replica of his home in Russia. And I don't know, maybe I told you this story, but I always think of my mother, who's from Russia, and my parents are like 20 minutes down the road. So on July 4th, this is not only on July 4th, this happens a lot. My mom calls me, she says, "Robert, I make borscht. You have to come eat." You know what borscht is? It's a thick Russian soup made of beets and cabbage, and it's hot, and I said, "Mom, context. It's North Carolina. It's 100 degrees out. It's 100% humidity." And you know what she said to me? She says, "I don't care. It's like home." That's Russian nostalgia. And that's this piece in many ways. And so these are variations. They're variations on the Paganini 24th Caprice. But they're not really variations on that. You're going to hear that a little bit, and then you won't hear it so much. I call these vignettes, not variations. And it's like all through the rear view mirror, because he's reflecting on his life. Some of the parts sound to me very American, like the beginning. That's like Manhattan, bustling, But then you have other parts that could be out of Swan Lake, like this in the middle. It's so Russian. You hear Russian church bells. He was a Russian Orthodox Christian, but they excommunicated him when he married his cousin. But that's another story, Those are the bells. A lot of his music uses bell sounds. This early piece of his bells. Yeah, so you're also going to hear this melody, which is the Dies Irae chant from the Middle Ages, the Day of Wrath. Very, very eerie thing, creepy. He was obsessed with that in his last years. I think maybe he was seeing what was going on in the world. The Second World War was not far off. He was also thinking of his own mortality, maybe, I think. So anyway, this is the Rachmaninoff sum of about 2/3 of Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. See what happens, because this is my Bucky's piece, so. It's not all of it, it's most of it. So I'm almost there, I'm almost at the end. So now I'm going to play you a couple gospel things. Let's see. This one is, I have to work out more how I want to do it, but it's one of my absolute favorites. It's a spiritual, This Little Light of Mine, because it's such a universal thing. So have you ever heard Odetta sing it? Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm trying to, imitate. But let's see how it goes.
You're going to be
gospel. This is called "In My Heart There Rings a Melody." And what, you know, the way I do it, it's I can't make up my mind how I want to do it, so I just do it slowly, and then I go faster, and then slow again, and then I just go full New Orleans at the end. So yeah, okay. Appreciate it. We'll